Next on the order for today, we have House File 2725 up for consideration. I do not see any amendments before us. So, Chair Cleavorn, would you like to move your bill and proceed to your testimony?
Thank you. I was hoping that Representative Zalesnikar would be with us this morning. I believe she's in the building and we're waiting for her to come.
Oh, our Chair Cleavorn, it sounds like Representative Zalesnikar is on her way.
Okay.
So why don't we go ahead and have you move the bill?
Okay.
And then we'll speak slowly, yes.
I will go very slowly. So I think what I'll do is move House File 2725 to be laid over for possible inclusion in our finance bill. And I'll just walk through what's in the bill at a very, oh, yay, come on in.
And just in the nick of time.
That's okay. These will be the steps we would be taking normally. So I'll walk through the task force bill, and then let's do it this way. Okay. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning, Representative Zalesnikar.
Good morning.
Chair Cleavorn.
I will begin with opening comments.
Okay.
Okay, so House File 2725 is a result of a 17 months of work and recommendations of the Legislative Task Force on Aging, which met from August 2023 through December 2024. Minnesota is one of the healthiest states in the country, evident through the high rates of civic participation, volunteerism, and other health metrics. That success, coupled with a falling birth rate, will create a permanent demographic transition to an older state, which requires rethinking as to how our state and its communities plan to address issues associated with the growing numbers of adults living longer. This state is now home to over 1 million individuals aged 65 and older, outnumbering the population of school-aged children. Greater Minnesota has a larger share of older adults and is aging faster than the metro area. Moreover, 70% of women aged 65 plus live in Greater Minnesota, and nearly 78% of women aged 85 plus live alone. At the same time, older adults also contribute $154 billion to the state GDP, while holding 1.7 million jobs and are the largest volunteer workforce in communities. Yet older workers face discrimination and increasing challenges in securing and maintaining employment statewide. We must ensure that our state sees older adults not as a liability, but also as a contributor to our society. As the state demographer concluded in her first presentation to the task force, policies put in place to address aging today will position our state to be better aligned with future populations. This bill is a step forward in addressing that call to prepare our state to promote healthy aging and help Minnesotans age with dignity and live in the community of their choice. That is a high-level overview. I don't know if Representative Zalesnikar would like to say something before we walk through the actual provisions in the bill.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Cleavorn. She did a fantastic job chairing this. It was a bipartisan group with the Senate and the House that really did a deep dive for several months. And I've spent my career, before I retired, in long-term care and senior services as a nursing home administrator for 30 years, but started as a nursing assistant. But what shocked me is the entire time of my career, starting in the early 90s, was the 2030 plan, that we had this 2030 plan, and 2030 is really close. And I was kind of surprised that we really don't have a great plan when we have the baby boomers, which I heard about my entire career. And so here we are with issues, and even today, 17% of our seniors that are 85 to 100 are in Minnesota nursing homes, so the frailest of the frail. And so this committee looked at non-emergency transportation, housing, isolation, mental health needs. We know we had a 40% increase after COVID. We looked at aging in our homes and what that looks like when we have a workforce. I'm also on the workforce committee. And we need to make sure we have services to deliver in greater Minnesota. So this was a vehicle to listen across the state. We got a lot of feedback from seniors that are aging, from families, from providers. We're seeking efficiencies, but clearly we needed to do something because the 2030 plan I've been hearing about is here. I mean, in 5 years, my dad's in that bracket. He is the beginning of the baby boomers, and I would be the end. And so, of that birth group. And so we have to be positioned, and this is a step forward to give Minnesota a cabinet level for aging, and I think it's a great position for Minnesota.
Thank you, Representative Zalesnikar. And I want to make note for the public that sometimes we don't always see just how bipartisan this body can be and how it works efficiently. I think the unique circumstances of a tie have made some of that more visible to see the ways in which we actually do work together, and sometimes we even like each other. So thank you for that. With that, Madam Chair, if you'd like to continue with your walking through the bill.
Thank you, and I'll just do a very high level, and we have this in our packet. I'm just going to go through. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. What I'd like to do is, in your packet this morning, there is, I believe, the House Research Brief, and I'm just going to kind of walk through that, and then I can answer any questions that you have. In Section 1, you will see that this is a Healthy Aging Subcabinet, and it will be housed within Management and Budget. Section 1 establishes the purpose and intent. It talks about the subcabinet purpose. In subsection 3, you'll see that there is a director who will be needed to carry on this work. Subsection 4 sets out the subcabinet membership. Subsection 5 sets out their duties. Subsection 6 is the Citizens Engagement Council. One of the things that we heard most importantly in the Task Force on Aging is that Minnesotans want to be heard. They want to have a voice at the table, and this would give them a voice at the table. In subsection 7, there are discretionary powers, which authorizes the Office of Healthy Aging to apply for and receive grants and to issue contracts and grants. Subsection 8 is to ensure that there is public awareness, and this is to maintain a website and publish annual reports in order to share and gather ideas. Subsection 9 is the Minnesota Healthy Aging Plan, and this is the really important part. This is the multi-sector plan that will need to be created so that we will have a vehicle to address some of the costs and needs of our state earlier in the system so that we gather those efficiencies. And then subsection 10 requires an annual report. The appropriation in this bill is $1.7 million. Chair Nash and I are negotiating that price, so that's why we're holding it over for possible inclusion. And with that, we have several members of the public who wish to testify, so I would ask that we would go to public testimony first.
Thank you, Chair Cleavorn. And first up, we have Executive Director Christine Sundberg, and on deck we have Member Kathleen Kelso. If you'd please come to the testifiers table.
Okay, Chris, you're first. If you'll state your name. If we can go to Ms. Sundberg to state her name for the record, please, and begin her testimony.
Executive Director Sundberg, if you'd like to state your name for the record and you can proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. I'm Christine Sundberg, Executive Director of Elder Voice Advocates. We had the pleasure of working through the entire Task Force on Aging and are delighted to see this bill before us now. The people that we represent are us. We are the older people. This enables us to live happy lives that are healthy and well-supported. And I'd like to turn it over to Board Member Kathy Kelso.
All right. Member Kelso, if you'd like to go ahead and state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Members of the committee. My name is Kathleen Kelso. I'm a board member of the Elder Voice Advocates, And I, too, am extremely grateful to our chair, Representative Cleavorn, and all the committee task force members that spent 17 months working diligently on this question about aging in the future. We began this journey in 2020 when I was 71. 5 years later, I'm 76, and we're still looking for answers. We began by asking at the beginning of COVID, where and how are we going to live? Without affordable housing options, transportation in our communities, when our towns and cities are focused on keeping families that don't include mention of grandparents in our small towns in greater Minnesota. Where and how do you wish to live as you age? Does your town or city embrace your aging population? Will you support a statewide plan for aging residents of your district? We are all aging, yet we do not invest in ourselves or in our aging communities. Minnesotans have already experienced service fragmentation, and we have grave concerns about complete erosion of aging supports we once relied upon. We all require an infrastructure for aging built through public and private partnerships to ensure seniors, families, and our entire state safe and affordable communities in which we live. Aging is a public health issue. Most older adults do experience changes in mobility and abilities, and some of us become disabled. We all choose to live at home, however, for as long as possible within our communities of choice as we age. House File 2725 would result in a plan of action, strategies that take us beyond short-term projects that do not result in ongoing and long-term action for aging in Minnesota. The Healthy Aging Plan would redirect our current pattern of just-in-time funding for aging services every legislative session to plan and build. House File 2725 would ensure the voices and perspectives of older adults in the planning process and resulting recommendations. Given the demographics, it is time for us to be included and for our state to lead the way in planning with us, not just for us. Thank you for your support of aging and support of the House File 2725, establishing the Healthy Aging Cabinet, the Healthy Aging Plan, and the Citizens Engagement Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelso. And then next we have Commissioner Greg Wright and Leif Greena. If you would please come to this testifier table. We will start with Commissioner Wright. If you'd like to state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Gregory Wright, and I'm a county commissioner. I'm here speaking as a county commissioner, not for any particular organization today. I appreciate you looking at this bill and want to let you know that all 87 counties are aging. It is a state issue as well as a national issue. As a county commissioner, I'm well aware of our aging population, and there is no statewide strategic plan to guide counties as to how to prepare, coordinate, and deliver the programs that will be needed. Without a comprehensive and strategic state-led plan, 87 counties will be left to their own ability and means to prepare for the challenges of an aging county. If counties could do this on their own, they already would have done it. Aging is a public health issue and a concern for our aging demographics. Aging is a bipartisan issue. I think that you're all aware that Republicans and Democrats age at the same rate. Aging is a rural and urban issue. All right, it's comprehensive throughout the state, and every county, every city has the same issue of an aging population. And the aging of Minnesota needs planning and policies. The Aging in Minnesota requires a comprehensive strategic and long-term plan to address the many issues of aging to assure the quality of life at every stage. And in order to adequately address the needs of the aging population, a subcabinet on healthy aging is essential. Healthy Aging Subcabinet and a citizen engagement can produce a statewide strategic plan for our aging Minnesota. A subcabinet, along with participation of the counties and citizens, will provide the strategic plan that Minnesota needs to address the issues of our aging population. I urge you to support and pass HF 2725. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And with that, we'll go over to President Greena.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name's Leif Grena. I'm the president of the Minneapolis Regional Retirees Council, a constituent body of the Minneapolis Regional Labor Federation. We're comprised of affiliated local and regional union retiree organizations and individual members. We strongly support passage of House File 2725 to establish a Healthy Aging Subcabinet. And I want to take just a moment to talk about who we are, because I think there's a lot in our popular culture about what old people are and what we're like, and that we need a handout often in services and support. But we're more than a population in need of services. We have given much to our communities, and we still do. According to a survey by the Wilder Foundation for the State Department of Human Services, quote, of Minnesota families using child care, 46% use care provided by families, friends, and neighbors. Over half of the caregivers are grandparents, mostly grandmothers. We retired from work, not life. We are engaged in the civic life of our communities and our democracy. Our age cohort votes in a higher percentage than any other age group in the state of Minnesota, and you may have noticed the elderly volunteers at our polling places. We volunteered food shelves, we prepare meals for those in need, we take care of each other and our neighbors. We read to children in schools, we volunteer in our churches and in our communities in a myriad of ways. By one estimate, we are a volunteer workforce in Minnesota of 300,000. We're more than a people in need. We are worthy of an investment. And we want what everybody wants. We want to age with dignity. We want financial security, adequate transportation, safe communities, recreational opportunities, access to affordable quality health care, and affordable housing. The rapid growth of our aging population will only continue. And as our state changes, though, what is the plan? What are the policies to meet the challenges we face? What resources we do have are scattered among a number of bewildering bureaucracies with no coordination, no coherent plan or policies. Who is responsible to coordinate the resources and people we need? Who will develop the plan and policies that ensure that transportation and healthcare, housing, and opportunities to be engaged in our communities will be accessible and affordable? Who and how will we ensure that our aging population can continue to contribute and when unable any longer will live with dignity? This bill goes a long way toward answering these questions and setting a vision for the future. Aging is in everybody's future, and doing it well is in everyone's interest. Thank you.
Right. Apologies for the disturbance. All right. Thank you, President Greena, for that testimony. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to testify on behalf of the bill? Okay. None? All right. The testifiers are, of course, welcome to go back to their seat. Being not aware of any amendments, again, we'll go straight to discussion. Are there any members who have questions or comments? Representative Howard.
Thank you, Chair Bonner and Chair Cleavorn and members that testified. Looking through this task force recommendation, I'm just struck by just how comprehensive it is and what an amazing piece of work to try to be a base for where we go as a state on serving our aging communities. Of course, not surprising, I was focused on the housing section of the report and noted that some of the recommendations seem to want to address our housing shortage, support diverse housing choices, support age-friendly housing like ADUs, shared housing, intergenerational home sharing, and missing middle housing. Do you, just a question, how much housing came up on the task force for seniors? I would assume quite a bit. And how do you see this subcabinet delving into the issue of housing as it relates to seniors?
Chair Cleavorn.
Thank you. And Representative Howard, this is where your interests and my interests align. And this is also where your interests and my interests separate. So let's dig a little deeper. Transportation was the #1 issue discussed. Healthcare and housing, 2 and 3. Okay. So when it comes to housing, right, we have to make sure that when we're planning any kind of housing, that we ensure that the housing that we are building works across the life cycle. And so when I talk to you about things that we talk about like aesthetics, right, I say to you, okay, is that porch going to allow a walker? Is that entryway going to allow for a wheelchair? Will the bathroom be built to a standard that will allow grab bars sometime in the future, right? So it's always the devil in the details. The goals of more housing, more mixed housing, and planned developments that will allow people to move from single-family home to townhome to apartment, all of that is really important. But what we need in this task force is a coordinator who can say, okay, if we are putting forward a transportation bill, does that accommodate people no matter their ability? If we're putting forward a housing bill, does it accommodate people no matter their ability, right? So this is the coordination, the efficiencies, the innovations that when we work together, we can figure out. So you and I share the goal of making sure that we have housing that meets different life cycle needs. And you and I share the goal of making sure that we have more housing to fit people's needs. But we need to make sure that the legislation that we're passing does that. And so that's where the coordination comes into play.
Chair Howard.
That's really helpful. And so how you envision the subcabinet working, as it just rates generally, is this is going to be a really strong advisory group for us as the legislature. So as legislation's moving on X, Y, or Z, this subcabinet is a resource that's providing us guidance. This is good, this is what we should consider, et cetera.
100%.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing this today. I echo what Representative Howard was saying, and actually want to touch on what seems to be the #1 issue that was brought up around transportation. I often talk about on the Transportation Committee how about 1 in 3 Minnesotans isn't able to drive for one reason or another: age, ability, accessibility, affordability, and it just points out in our packet how 1 in 5 older adults is basically a part of that group. And so I really appreciate that being called out. I know I've talked to constituents in my community who they've actually moved to my area because they needed more transportation options. And so I really appreciate the coordination and the level of just problem solving that will happen as a result of this committee, I hope. So this is a great first start. So thank you.
Madam Chair.
Chair Cleavorn.
Thank you. And Representative Jones, I so value your dedication to transportation for everyone in our state. And this is really an issue in greater Minnesota where where services have been consolidated and the distances are growing larger. We heard over and over in greater Minnesota how people have no ability to get to their doctor's appointments. And it doesn't matter if you build more houses if people don't have to get to these basic human needs, right? Their groceries, their doctor's appointments, to get out of their home, right? And visit with neighbors and be involved in community. This is a major issue. So transportation is key, and that coordination across the life cycle and across abilities is absolutely fundamental to human dignity.
Thank you for that, and I know that's been a hot topic in Maple Grove and Plymouth and a lot of our communities, so thank you for that. Is there any other members who would like to speak before we go to Chair Nash? All right, Chair Nash, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Chair Cleavorn. I will admit that I did not catch my question as we were reading through, and Representative Howard covered the majority of what I want to talk about regarding housing, but if I could direct you to lines 2.13 through 2.15. I did have a question relative to that.
Chair Cleaver.
Thank you, and I would like to acknowledge Andrew George, who is with me at the testifier table. Mr. George was our committee researcher, and he helped put together the task force report, and I would encourage all of you to read that task force report. Okay. I'm sorry, would you please tell me which lines again?
I was giving you time to get there.
Thank you.
So thank you, Madam Chair. On lines 2.13 through 2.15, you call out on lines 2.14 that you wanted to include the Indian Affairs Council, but there were no other mentions of other ethnic councils. And I just wondered why that might be. You know, there are other ethnic councils, and we've been talking about them, but just wanted to make sure that there was consideration, and I don't know if that's wrapped up in line 2.13, public and private sectors. But having just rolled off the API board, I know that they are facing the same issues that everybody else is, that they have members of their community that are aging. Representative Kosnick was on the Latina board. Just wondered why that was not included in your bill.
Chair Cleavorn.
Thank you, and I appreciate your bringing our attention to that. Of course, all of the ethnic councils, the entire objective of the subcabinet is to coordinate and to collaborate with all state agencies and entities. That is in the bill. The reason we specifically call out MIAC is because of the tribal nation's sovereignty. And we want to make sure that we honor and respect the sovereignty of the nations and to make sure that we are doing our best to do that intergovernmental relationship building.
Thank you for that. Chair Nash.
I'm good.
All right, thank you. Before we go to the vote, I will just say I do want to take a point of personal privilege to say thank you to Mr. George for the excellent report. He does very good work. And also to say thank you to Chair Cleavorn. I know from the time I've been in this body that we have watched the amount of work, dedication that you have put into this plan. When we talk to MMB every single year, we talk about the issue of our aging population, but rather than just words, you have dove in to go well beyond. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of that work. I know everyone here appreciates that. And with that, with no other discussion, we will go ahead and move to lay this over for possible inclusion. All those in favor, please.
We don't have to vote. But I would like to just say, Madam Chair, the extensive work that Mr. George has done, diving deep into what other states have done in aging, he has laid a terrific foundation for this new subcabinet to build upon the work that other states have done. So we don't have to start from scratch. We can also accommodate the efficiencies there as well. So thank you, and with that, I'll renew the motion to lay it over.
All right, thank you. And with that, House File 2725 is laid over for possible inclusion.